when laws change, identification rates for dyslexia change. Not because suddenly more kids have dyslexia, but more kids are finally being found. One school district in Texas went from identifying 5% of kids on average with dyslexia to nearly 23%. And I'm not talking over 50 years. I'm talking over a decade. Now, before anyone says there's no way dyslexia increased that much, you're right. The kids didn't change. The identification did. Because in 2023, Texas passed House Bill 3928, which is known as the Beckley-Wilson Act. It was this major change in how students with dyslexia are identified and served in Texas. Before House Bill 3928, most students with dyslexia received just 504 plans. But after House Bill 3928, dyslexia services were moved under special education. And that may sound like a technical legal change, but it had very real consequences for students because the law increased accountability. It required more comprehensive evaluations, and all these kids started getting specially designed instruction. That's right, dyslexia-specific intervention. And of course, it came with additional funding to support these kids. Now, let's look at what happened. Austin ISD's dyslexia identification rate increased from around 5% to nearly 23%. 23%. Did Austin suddenly become the dyslexia capital of America? Of course not. The kids didn't change. The prevalence of dyslexia did not change. The system's ability to identify it changed. So for decades, researchers have estimated that dyslexia affects about 15 to 20% of the population. In other words, roughly 1 out of every 5. Yet many states and school districts identify students at rates that are dramatically lower than that. Some identify at 3%, some at 5%. Some at 7%. And yes, I have personally connected with superintendents who have said that they have no kids with dyslexia in their districts, meaning 0%. So what should we ask ourselves? Is dyslexia actually less common in those places, or are students being missed? Because children do not stop having dyslexia simply because they haven't been identified. Those students are still sitting in classrooms every day. They're the students who are reading below their potential, who avoid reading out loud, who spend twice as long on homework. They're the students who are exhausted at the end of the school day. Those are the same kids who don't think they're smart enough. When in reality, many just have an unidentified learning disability called dyslexia. So I have a message for everybody. In my 15 years in dyslexia, I will tell you the biggest driver of change, especially in state legislation, is parents. I actually interviewed multiple of the moms responsible for the Beckley-Wilson Act on the Don't Call on Me podcast, and they were all moms, just like you guys. If they can do it, you can too. I'll of course drop the article link in the comments because I think every parent, educator, educational advocate, and policymaker should read it.